Welcome to A Double
and
Dice
with your host Kim.
and Jocelyn.
Pour your favorite beverage
Pull up a comfy chair.
because we are ready to roll.
Welcome to episode 111. 111. And before we start into our episode, we just want to say thank you very much to all our listeners because we received an email that we've gotten 10,000 downloads.
Of this unnamed podcast that we're doing?
Yeah. A double and dice still fits for everything.
Yeah, but you didn't say it at the beginning of the episode.
Did I not say it?
No.
Did I say it 111 of a double and dice?
No, you said episode number 111 and then you went on to something else.
Okay, well, I can rewind. Welcome to episode 111 of a double and dice. And before we get into our episode, we want to thank all our listeners because we received an email that we got 10,000 downloads of our podcast.
It's amazing.
Episode. That is a big number.
It is a big number. You know what I'm not doing is I'm not breaking it down to figure out on average how many people listen to our episodes.
No.
But the 10,000
and that
is great.
doesn't include YouTube. So it's mostly on all the podcasting services out there.
That's right. If you stream it from our website, that would count. If you have any of the podcast services like Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever.
Google. Yeah.
Yeah. YouTube Music now, I think it is, right? But it would.
Yeah. Have they moved to that yet? I have no idea.
I don't know. I'm an iPad person. I'm an iPhone person.
Yeah.
But if you don't watch it on YouTube, like on regular plain old YouTube, and you do it through a podcast platform, then that's our 10,000. And if you count all the people that watch our YouTube, then we hit 10,000 about 5 minutes earlier than that.
Or more. We get a good average of views on the YouTube, so
yeah, I guess we do. But we do appreciate all of you that are out there listening every single week, and we are still getting consistent downloads, even though there's not a whole heck of a lot to talk about in this Dice Masters game we love.
No, not a lot. But we've asked our fellow listeners for some suggestions. And we've gotten quite a few.
We have. You have delivered and let us know what you want to hear.
And we are actually going to talk about one of those suggestions today.
And who did that suggestion come from, Kim?
Andy, our fellow friend, Andy.
Andy May. Andy America.
Yes, because there's a couple of Andys in Discord.
Yeah, the other Andy is Andy from the Ministry of Dice, who has not put out a podcast so far this year yet. Short of their holiday pantomime on the January 1st. But they've been really busy. Did you know that Chris is in South Africa right now?
Yeah, I saw his pictures. He's on vacay.
Yeah, they're on like safari and stuff. They saw penguins. I know penguins aren't part of the safari. They're just part of the South Africa stuff. But they're on safari now.
It's pretty cool though. But it's not very far for where he is, right? So
I mean,
I'm guessing that's not a far plane ride.
I think it is far. Like all the way from South Africa. Like it'd be pretty far to get from England. He said he traveled for like a whole day. So
yeah.
I don't think it's like you can take a direct flight from, England to South Africa. There's probably connections and stuff.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
That'd be a cool place to visit.
Yeah, it would. It would be cool. Maybe one day. But anyway,
I'm curious. England to South Africa. Flight time. All right, let's see. This is live, people. 11 hours and 30 minutes.
In flight time.
We'll have to see if that's correct or not.
When Chris gets back, if he listens to this, he'll let us know. So, but...
From London to Johannesburg or London to Cape Town is 11 hours and 30 minutes.
Yeah, then
So they're a direct flight. Well, direct, depending where you're going in South Africa, I guess.
And then there's like, airport time. Like you have to get there early and go through security. And when you get there, you have to go through customs and all that sort of stuff. So I could see how it'd take a whole day. It'd be exhausting.
Yes, that is exhausting. You just need a day to recuperate.
100%. So anyway, Andy sent us this idea, Kim, and and what is it?
We're going to talk about what does support look like for Dice Masters.
Dice Masters. I thought this was a Lorcana podcast.
We're actually gonna talk about Dice Masters today. Like if not speaking like, and Andy put it like regular product schedule, just like off of that, like support, I guess, general off of product scheduling.
Well, I think
what are we looking? It's part of it, yes.
So should we jump in?
But more the itty gritty stuff, right? So
sure. So let's jump in. I think the first thing would be a regular product schedule.
Yes.
I know he said aside from that, but I think that's important.
Yeah.
So
beyond that, yeah.
If WizKids was supporting Dice Masters in the way that they support some of their other games, or in the way that some other games support their communities, the first thing would be regular product releases. Now, I think regular with an asterisk, Kim.
Yeah.
Because we know that there are always challenges when it comes to creating and releasing products, regardless of what type of product it is. So, within reason. I think we talked about, did we talk about this or did I make it up? We talked about HeroClix and how last year they released a bunch of sets like back to back.
And then what was it, like a couple months span?
Yeah. So like they released a set in September, and then we got another set. It was like sort of early to mid-September. And then we got another set at the end of October. So it was like 6 weeks apart. And then we didn't get any more sets until like March. So there was like 4 months between them. And then it looked like we were going to get another set in April or May, but it now looks like it's been pushed to June. So that's a little bit more of a good timing, because you need to have time to get your product, to open your product, to play with it, to see how it interacts with other cards. If you're releasing products too quickly, then, product that should shine might get looked over.
And I'm wondering if they went so back to back, and this is just speculation and me guessing, is they were delayed in a few of those products, and it just happened to all come at the same time. You know what I mean?
100%. Like
that they just pushed it out every 6 weeks or something because they had it.
Yeah.
And they just delayed, and one product came out before other or something like that. And it just kind of like pushed it out every 6 weeks.
Yeah. And there's no, like if you don't have the storage space, like a lot of companies don't have space to store that much product.
Yeah, they can't hold it.
You can't really hold it. You have to ship it out to your distributor. Your distributor has to ship it out to the stores because they don't have space to store it, right?
No, and you're paying for space, right? So it's not cheap to probably hold all that.
100%. So it totally makes sense. And if I think back to the timing release between Dark Phoenix Saga and Kryptonite Crisis, if you remember, Kim, they said that Dark Phoenix was going to be first. Then they said, no, Superman's going to be first. And then they came back and said, no, Dark Phoenix is going to be first. But actually, we're probably going to receive them at the same time. But WizKids made the decision, and they publicized this in one of the podcasts, and it might have even been in an article, that they were going to specifically hold back Superman for a few months so that people would have a chance to get Dark Phoenix before they did it. So they actually did invest in that to keep the product separated.
Right.
So yeah, but I think like I don't know, like if you had your way, Kim, let's assume you were in charge of Dice Masters at WizKids. You are Queen WizKids.
Okay.
What do you think is the right number of releases in a year?
Considering it's not only cards, it's dice, where I think it takes probably more of the manufacturing. I would go with 4 to 6 months.
Okay, so if you did 4 months, that would be like 3 releases a year.
Yeah.
And 6 months would be 2 releases a year.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're saying 2 to 3 releases a year.
Pretty much, okay. Yes. Because I'm just factoring that dice might take a bit longer.
Yeah. But forgetting that, like if you had the choice, if you were in charge, you could say, make this happen.
Okay.
Does that feel like the right number to you, or would you want more or less?
I would say, but then I would go probably every 3 months.
So 4 releases.
So maybe 3 to 4 a year.
All right. So I feel like 2 is probably a smidgen light if we're having a competitive scene in the game. I think that somewhere in the 3 to 4 releases per year would be ideal. 3 probably feels to me like the sweet spot.
The right number. Yeah.
Like every 4 months you would get a set, give or take. That's what feels good to me. I think if you had a set every 3 months, that could also be okay. But I think the next piece of this conversation about the like in addition to the product releases is the schedule of gaming, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I was gonna say if I was a Dice Masters player.
You're an old Dice Masters player.
I'm semi-retired.
Yeah, right?
Maybe
you could come out of retirement.
Maybe I could be nominated for the Rolling Thunder Hall of Fame. Maybe I'm semi-retired. So as a Dice Masters player, current tense, in theory, I would want the releases to somehow tie into a competitive schedule.
You mean like
competitive
people
gaming,
playing in-person game, like tournament?
In-person tournaments, right?
Yep.
Online tournaments are good. Don't get me wrong, and they were great during the pandemic. But in-person tournaments, and I would want the schedule of product releases to somehow connect back to that, so that, let's say, super simple, they have like a nationals for the various countries that play at a world's competition. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I would want there to be the potential for a change in the meta between nationals and worlds.
And what do you mean by that?
But like there would be a product release between the two events.
Okay. Because
I think that if you don't have a product release between the events, like let's look at 2022 and 2023 as an example. So the only thing that came out in 2023 was Secret Wars. Secret Wars didn't bring a lot of win conditions. So when we went in 2022 to US Nationals and Worlds, which were held on a Friday and a Saturday in Memphis, with US Nationals being on the Friday and Worlds on the Saturday, there was no change in the meta. Everybody played the exact same team. Right? So your teams were exactly the same. And then they released Secret Wars in the spring, which brought in a couple of new cards, but not really a ton of win conditions, particularly nothing that could take on the big baddie Master Mold Endless Sentinels. So when we went to 2023 Nationals at Gen Con, I say we, I mean you're Rob and I, it was a Master Mold Fest. Yeah. There wasn't a whole lot of the new cards. So I think that brings up two things. So one is that if there is going to be competitive events, which is what I would like to see, I want to have access to competitive events for Dice Masters, that I think there should be product releases tied close enough to those events that they could potentially impact the meta of the game and that different cards are being played. So you're not always playing the same team over and over and over.
And I mean, I know people really may or may not like it, but I mean, you could ban cards.
Well, I think that's a whole other topic, right?
Yeah.
So let's go back to the gaming schedule. So in-person tournaments, I'd like to see a Nationals and a Worlds. And I would like to see some sort of in-store organized play.
Yeah, like the op kits. I used to love those things. And I mean, with Nationals too, my whole nitpick about that too is like currently, or I guess in the past, I mean, they had one for Canada, they had one for US, they had for US, but they dropped Canada. Never even thought about like, are people in the other world? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that has to be consistent. Like, it has to be, you have United States, if you want to say like that, Canada, Europe, Australia seems to be pretty popular. You know what I mean? Like, places where they're playing, because it feels like unfair.
Well, yeah. And then the next thing I would say with regards to that is, okay, so you have your set places maybe like the 4 that you said, right? US, Canada, Europe, and Australia. And then the next thing would be announcing the schedule in enough time for people to plan.
Right, exactly. And that's not 2 weeks before.
No, exactly. So on the WizKids, let's call it kudos meter, for HeroClix and Onslaught, they announced Worlds this year in February?
For September.
So you can't book your hotel yet, but they announced the dates, the location.
So you can start planning around it, yeah.
So you could like book flights.
Yep.
You could book your time off work, but they just haven't opened the room block yet.
Okay.
So, and that's totally fine. Like, I think that's the type of announcement I would want to see. And I think back to the first time they ran Worlds at Memphis, which was, I think, 2019, Kim. They announced it, I want to say, in May for September, which was decent. February is better. But what I also would like to see is not just an announcement in February about Worlds in September, but an announcement of the entire year's competitive schedule, what we are going to expect in January or February. And I feel like before the pandemic, we were on a good track, because when we left Memphis in 2019, we left Memphis with dates for 2020. The problem was that a pandemic happened.
Yeah.
So everything got canceled.
Yep.
Yeah. And then, of course, they didn't restart anything until 2022, and we all know how that went. So I'd like to see the announcement of a competitive schedule early in the year with a list of the conventions that WizKids is planning to hold games at. So, hey, it's us, WizKids. I'm here, Jocelyn from WizKids, the best WizKids owner ever. I'm so much better than Jake and Justin and everybody.
Jocelyn's going to buy WizKids.
That's right.
Buy Dice Masters.
I mean, if I won the lottery, maybe. But
yeah, you never know.
So, here I am. I'm in charge. So it's whatever. Let's call it mid-January. People have gotten through the holidays. I'm going to come out with a schedule for all my competitive games. And I'm going to say, hey, competitive gamers, Dice Masters, HeroClix, Onslaught, Attack Wing, whomever, right? We are going to be running Worlds in September for all of our events, for all of our games. We will also be hosting Nationals. Nationals will be held this year at Gen Con in August. So if you want to go to Gen Con, now's the time. And announcing that in early January is good, because that's when the hotel block opens up to get Gen Con hotels in theory, easiest way. And so, we're going to be at Gen Con. It's going to be Nationals. We're going to run store tournaments running up to Nationals. There's going to be one in March. There's going to be one in June. Then you're going to have Nationals in August. You're going to have Worlds in September. And then we're going to do something in, say, October or November as like a year-end to wrap up the event.
And mostly in all the countries, Canada, US, Europe, maybe in Australia, they do have big conventions.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Board game conventions that they can hold these in these different places, right?
100%. I mean, with all of that said, going to a big board game convention to simply play one game, like going to Gen Con to play Dice Masters or HeroClix, it's kind of a bummer, because you're paying for your ticket to get into this massive convention. Then you spend all your time in one part of the hall doing that.
Yeah.
But with that said, if I had a schedule, then I could plan my year and my vacation time to say, here's the events that I want to go to, or here's the ones that I can book off, or here's the ones that I have access to, right? So, we're going to be at, I'm just going to say names of conventions I know. UK Games Expo, Origins, Gen Con, PAX U, Gamehole Con, whatever, Adepticon, like, name the conventions and the dates, and say these are the games, these are the conventions that we're going to be attending, and these are the dates that we're going to be holding events, and all of these will have some sort of tournament.
Yes. Agreed.
So that's what I would like to see. And then if we pop into the secondary part of that, sorry, Kim, I didn't mean to cut you off. You said agree. Is there anything you wanted to add?
No.
Okay. The in-store place. So let's talk about OP kits, because you talked about how you really like, so OP stands for organized play, for those that are not in the know. OP kits and organized play in stores, like, tell me about that. What does that look like for you?
So in case people don't know what it was in the past, it was like this kit that you would get. So you would have like participation cards that you would go out. They're promo cards pretty much. Whether they're like redone art on a current card, or it's a new promo card that's come out. And then you kind of like have a mini tournament almost, and you give that as prizing. And I'm a sucker for promo cards. So I love just going and playing for these cards, right? Just to get it into my collection. So bringing that back and maybe tying in, as you were saying, with product release. So you have a product release and you have a tie-in of an op kit with that product release, because they go hand in hand. You can kind of play the product and then you get an op kit that's with the, you know what I mean? They kind of get a little bit excited about, going to play in a store or something like that.
Yeah. And I don't think we need dice. Like, I know early on some of the op kits had
some of them,
dice,
not all
like
of them.
Melinda May and
Yes.
the Batmobile and stuff like that. It can just be like, it doesn't have to be even a new card. I mean, it could be. You could take a card and apply it to an existing dice, right? So you have dice in your Secret Wars for Doctor Doom, right? Here's an alternate art Doctor Doom card that is the same as the card in the set. Maybe it's the rare, maybe it's the super rare.
Yeah, maybe it's foiled. Who knows?
It's a foil version that's not available in the set, something like that. Or here's a completely new Doctor Doom card. It works with the die you already have from the set, but it has a different ability. And then it becomes sort of an exclusive card because it's a winnable.
Right. Yeah, it's like top prize or something. Like there's different, first, second, participation. And yeah, if they tie it in with the product release, you're getting the dice anyways, right? If you're playing with the product.
Exactly. So on that note, if we tied it in with the product release, would you think that like 3 or 4 OP kits in a year is sufficient?
I would say so, yeah.
Okay. And how many weeks of OP would you want to see in a kit?
Like one kit, how much it would...
Yeah, like one kit, how many weeks consecutively would you play it?
Enough so I get all the cards. So, because that's what you're going to try to play for, right? To get each card.
Right. So I'll give you an example. So right now, I'm going to keep referencing HeroClix because this is what they're doing in HeroClix right now. And we could bring some of these ideas into Dice Masters if they just put some effort in. So they're running some OP kits in HeroClix. They're considered what they call month-long storyline events. So the idea is they send out a sheet that says, this kit provides enough for you to provide participation prizes, and fellowship prizing for 4 weeks. Right? So it's like a monthly event. Yeah. And then in those 4 weeks, they provide suggestions of types of events you can run, but essentially it's up to the store. So it could be like run in HeroClix, they have something called Pulp, where you can only build with commons, uncommons, and rares. They have, regular modern, they have golden, they have sealed, like all different types of things. So they might say, okay, we suggest you run these types of events, but ultimately it comes up to the store. The store can decide to do whatever they want with it. So if you tied it into the release of the set, you would have, okay, here's the set release. Maybe you do a draft for, the first one. And then the second one's a constructed. And then the third one's maybe some kind of limited constructed.
Yep.
And then the fourth one is, I don't know, whatever, something with a theme or whatever. And then 4 weeks go by. You've got the set. Now you're not going to have another set for 2 to 3 months. How do you keep in-store play going if you did it that way? I guess you have
to have like mini op kits, right? Like you have a storyline maybe that ties in with the product release, and then you have like a mini op kit that you have monthly up until a next release.
Yeah.
And that could be anything. It doesn't have to tie in with the product coming up. It just has to be anything really that they want to do.
So realistically, if we had op kits that were monthly, because we're shooting for the stars here, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a wish list. So if we had monthly op kits, which primarily would be alt art cards and
it's just cards, no dice.
Exactly. So. And or cards that you have dice for, but maybe have slightly different abilities.
Mm-hmm. I can see that. And I mean, they've done the storyline before in the past. I think they did one for DC and Marvel.
Yep.
I think it was Trinity Wars for DC.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what the Marvel one was. But they did do that. Yeah. Not consistently, though, like with, you know what I mean? Like one-off.
Right. So it's doable.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
But it's consistently doable. We're asking for.
I'm wondering, is it just too many cards?
Well, you already get too many cards anyways.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right? So
it's more like, even if you're a collector and you're going to collect and get every single card and every single foil in that card, you're going to want to have the promos as well.
So if you think about it, like right now, every card has 3 rarities, and they might have 4 if they have a super rare.
Mm-hmm.
And then there could be alt art versions, like there was with the Dark Phoenix OP kit.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make it harder for them to do OP because there's already so many versions of the character in the set?
Yeah, I don't know.
Do they reduce the number of rarities in a set?
That could be an option.
I don't know. I'm just spitballing here.
Yeah, I mean, or yeah, I mean, usually participation is usually alt art. I'm trying to think. It's been so long ago.
Yeah.
I can't remember if some of the other cards are new abilities or not.
Maybe you also don't participation prize everybody.
Yeah, right. I don't know.
Okay, so let's go back to where we're at. So we want regular product releases. We want an early year announcement of the tournaments that were going to be held and the dates of those tournaments. Mm-hmm. We want regular in-store organized play, whether that is monthly or, I mean, even if it's every other month. Not every time do you need a prize, right?
No.
You could also work with stores, like you could do like things like store credit or whatever. But so I forgot something. Not only do we want regular product releases, Kim, we want access to the flipping product.
So now we're going back to distribute. No, I can't even say the word.
Distribution.
There you go.
Distributors. Yeah. So like, I know that certain parts of the US don't have a problem with this, but here in Canada, it can be very difficult to get Dice Masters because the distributors are not ordering enough product. They're basically only ordering enough to supply the pre-orders. And then once that's done, they're not replenishing. So if we want to keep this game going, if we want to see this game have enough support, then we need to have access to product so that we can buy it. Because I buy enough product that I have everything pretty well that I want, and I can trade for anything I don't need or don't have, right? Mm-hmm. But I will still go to a draft because drafting is fun. And I'm going to leave that draft with a bunch of cards that I don't need and a bunch of dice that I don't need. And I'm going to give them to someone new and hopefully get a new player into the game. But, you know, a draft is what, $10 or $15? Like, I don't mind putting $10 or $15 in to play a game.
Yeah.
Right? So we need regular product releases, but we also need access to the product.
Yeah.
And I would also like to see, since we're wish listing this stuff, Kim, international release dates. I get that it's difficult, but Canada, the US,
the same date?
Europe, Australia, everybody should be getting the product at around the same time, like give or take a week or two.
Yeah. Yeah. Because in Canada, we were like, what, 1-2 weeks off of the US?
Sometimes it depended on the distributor.
Mm-hmm.
In theory, we were supposed to be the same time, but sometimes the distributor didn't get the product or whatever.
And then Europe has problems galore.
And Australia has problems.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so it's just kind of a mess. But okay, so regular product releases, international release dates, gaming schedule announced at the beginning of the year, hopefully tied to some of these tournaments. So again, I'm going to go back to HeroClix. One of the things that I really enjoyed about Memphis in 2023 was that the set that they were using for all of their sealed events in in HeroClix, they do sealed and Battle Royale, was a new set that was in pre-release. So nobody had it yet. So team sealed, Battle Royals, all of that was being done with a set that was brand new that no one had had previous access to unless they had been to a release event before the week of Memphis. Like they would have to go to a release event before they got to Memphis. So that put everybody on a very even playing field because no one really knew the set yet.
Surprise.
And it was super fun because you're all learning together.
Yeah.
So I would like to see that in Dice Masters. So for some of it doesn't have to be for every tournament or every event or every con that they go to. But if one or two conventions, even if it's just Worlds, they have a new set that's being released. I think back to 2019 where they had the preview draft for Avengers Infinity Gauntlet. That was great. There was only very limited people that could play in it. I was lucky enough to play in one of them, thanks to our friend Matt. But, you know, it was very exciting to play with stuff that no one had seen yet, even though it was prototypes and even though it was this and even though it was that. And then you got to keep those prototype cards, which were a cool exclusive prize, basically.
And I think with that would be really good for Worlds because that puts everybody at an even playing field.
Yeah. So I'd like to see that. At least Worlds have them tie into a product release. Mm-hmm. So that everybody's playing.
And you have time to kind of go through, draft it, pick your team that you're going to play. And then everybody's on the same level.
Well, I think for the actual Worlds tournament, I think you'd still want to do constructed, not constructed from the event. But I think from a draft thing, definitely.
Oh, I want to see constructed out of a...
I mean...
I think that would be very interesting.
I hear what you're saying. And I'm not saying it wouldn't be. What I am saying is that, let's say you're not someone who... Like, getting to Memphis might have been, you know, your whole budget. You don't have a lot of money left to draft cards. And you can only play what you've drafted, so you'd have to invest in drafts to make that happen. Or you'd have to play...
No, but it's part of the tournament. You pay your fee, you draft, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe you get prizing, you get an extra pack or whatever, right? And then you draft. Maybe you draft more cards than usual. And you pick from there.
So like a draft tournament.
Yes. It's pre-release. Nobody's seen the product, as you said. Yeah. You all draft together, but it's one fee you're paying. It's not like you're paying any extra.
Gotcha.
You have X amount of time to build your team.
Yeah.
And you can draft more cards than what it is, 16. I forget how much cards you usually get. 15. And then you build your team. Then you go. Because everybody's on the same.
That sounds like, aside from the fact that it's individual as opposed to team, it sounds like team sealed for HeroClix. So they do a constructed, but they also do a sealed event. Where you get
that would be very interesting. And you don't have to do that every year. That could be an every other thing, and you know what I mean? Like, but it'd be interesting because everybody's on the same, and you're not gonna get the same card everybody's bringing to the tournament.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So, on the topic of cards, before we get into banning cards, Kim, let's talk about other things we want to see on cards and as far as like rules before we get into banning things.
Okay. So rules support.
Yeah. So rules support.
The rules forum.
Does that look different than it does today? Because right now they're answering questions.
Yeah. I think it's okay. Like I don't have beef with it. The only thing is like if they weren't answering it and they were leaving us in the dust, that's a different question. But I think
like they did for 2 years.
Yeah. But what all of a sudden made them want to answer questions, it just boggles my mind. But anyways, I I don't mind what it is now. I mean, I'm sure it can get a little better, of course. You have you have a team, but I find like some of the answers may not be too consistent, and I think that's where they need to work on.
Yeah.
That I don't want to see a full-on long answer that confuses you even more and draws more questions. I just want an answer, and that is what it is. You know what I mean?
So I think I do know what you mean. I think what I'm hearing is a couple of things. So first off, this ties into one of the things I was going to mention. I've heard other people mention it in the Dice Masters community before, is card templating or keywording most of the abilities to make it more consistent so that the interactions are smoother. I understand when they do these types of things and they don't keyword and they don't template, they're trying to do things that are different, and eventually it might become a keyword. But I think there should be templating and consistency in language for how certain things work, and then that would allow you to better understand how things interact. So that could be something as far as the design side of things to make it a little bit easier, and then you might need less rules support. I like how the rules forum is answering questions, and I like that they are giving explanations.
But there's a button there.
But to your point, there are sometimes overly complicated explanations that make you feel more confused than when you started.
And me too is like, I don't want to read all that. I'm sorry. If I'm going to go look up a rule thing, I don't want to read all that information. You know what I mean? Just get to the point and give me the answer. Because then you just lose me. And then I'll just find out what the answer is among someone else. You know what I mean? It's just like, I don't want to look and then have to read a page of what the answer is. I just want the answer. And a lot of people who probably reply back to them is because they're making it more confusing. So now we have to reply back to them because it's like, we don't understand what you're saying now. So then it becomes so long. That's why I said, as you said, templating and just everybody's on the same page. It's easy just to answer. And that's it.
I like the new comprehensive rulebook,
which they seem to reference a lot.
I think that if they were going to improve that, they could make it clickable. Like right now, it's just a Word document. So make it like a clickable PDF so that if I am on the what's the word? Agenda? No. Table of contents. I can just see, okay, here's whatever I'm looking for. I'm looking for attack step. I can click on that and it will take me there.
Yep. One thing I thought about, and I mean, this shouldn't be very hard to do. It's almost like a summary page of your rules. Okay, someone asks a question, A. You give an answer, B, C. I don't know how long it goes on for, right? But then you have like a summary that says, this was the question, and boom, this is the answer. You want to see how we got to that answer? Click here, and you can go through the whole thing.
I like it.
You know what I mean? So it's not like, as for me, I don't get too much into that stuff. I hate rules. I'm very bad at giving rules and Dice Master stuff and all that stuff. But for me, I just want to go look, answer, done. Somebody who's a little bit wants to know how they got to that answer, why they gave that answer, then click the link, and then you have this whole form that explains the whole thing. You know what I mean? So you have to have like two different players play differently, how they read the rules or whatever. So I think just like a snapshot. That you can just go look, search it, what you're looking for. Okay, it's there. Boom. All right, got my answer. Oh, I want to read more about it. Okay, I click this link and it gives me the more.
Like it. The other thing that I was thinking about is better playtesting.
I don't even know if they even do that.
So I have heard that playtesting exists. I do not know how many people are playtesting or who's playtesting. But I think, from what I understand, and I could be wrong, so if you're one of the people that knows about this and you can share anything without like breaking any confidentiality rules, my understanding is that they playtest only in set.
Oh, okay.
So
like before
they don't,
it releases or something.
Yeah, they don't playtest constructed. They don't playtest in combination with other cards and abilities. They only playtest in set. is what I have been told in the past. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think engaging with more playtesters, for one, would help. And then also engaging with playtesters and permitting
playing the game.
And permitting them to construct teams that don't just include cards in that set, because that's where you're going to find how things break.
Yeah, so you have like a community playtesting group that are actual Dice Masters players.
You are not going to catch everything.
No.
Things will get through that shouldn't be there. It will happen. But then, to your point, Kim, the next part is banning cards or errata-ing cards. So, I mean...
Errata is probably more the easiest one to talk to, because if you do it template-wise, errata shouldn't exist. Right? You shouldn't have to go back and change wording on a card.
And the difficulty with errata is I am someone who is new, and I picked up this game and I pulled out this card and I read it and it made sense to me. So I played it a certain way, and I didn't know there was a thing, that there was a rules for them. And I go to a tournament and I find out that my card's been errated. So I think banning is something that could potentially be used a little bit more, or even watch listing or benching. So again, back to HeroClix. In HeroClix, they have a format called Silver, and Silver is an official format, and it goes back to a certain number of sets and includes everything modern. But in that format, they temporarily banned or benched a number of cards and figures that have recently been super powerful, or that they have identified would be super powerful in combination with some of the older figures that were not modern at the same time. So they're not saying those cards can't ever be played, but they're saying in this format of Silver, these cards are not available. They're not modern, so you can't play them in modern, but you could still play them in any other type of tournament that was out there. And they're saying that maybe one day they might bring them back. So they're paying attention to how the cards interact. They are listening to the HeroClix community about what they want to see in the cards and what is a problem. Right. And they're making changes. How much did we all talk about Master Mold?
Yeah.
We told the WizKids Master Mold was broken when it was previewed in like 2019.
And they never fixed it.
And it came out as printed in 2022. And it has dominated the meta ever since because it is too strong. They went too far with that one.
Yep. And then this can come down to so many different things. The playtesting. You know what I mean? Like, they never caught it. Or they never mixed it with other things to catch it, right? And there's so many different factors that could have been fixed if, again, support was properly in place. And if that's in place, then you may not even have banned cards. You know what I mean? Like, so many different like paths that could go down.
You're never going to get it 100% right.
No.
There's always going to be something that is overpowerful or underpowerful or whatever. So that's something to consider.
But I mean, WizKids never really had that much banned cards. Just like a few of them.
Yeah.
So they never really banned that much. And then, what was it? Did Shriek get banned? I can't remember. But
Shriek got banned in Modern about 2 weeks before the rotation.
Yeah.
So on the topic of rotation, a regular rotation would be good. We know when it's going to happen every year. I think that goes back into the whole concept of planning out your year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, how long is a good time before you rotate something out and it goes into Golden, right?
Yeah, so I think the rule of thumb used to be about 2 years. Some sets were rotated earlier and some sets got more time. And I think the same thing is happening in HeroClix. They just changed it. They used to rotate in July. So you would have your at the time, you would have your national event in like June. They would do a rotation in July, and then when you went to Worlds, it would be a new team. They're now doing the rotation immediately following Worlds. So your nationals and your Worlds team could be the same, but they do also typically release a product in between those two events. So there's an opportunity for new products to come out.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and I think 2 years is not bad.
Yeah, it's decent.
Mm-hmm. It's not too little and it's not too long.
So one thing we hear a lot about is communication.
Yeah.
So we talked about them communicating event dates early in the year. We talked about them holding events. We talked about them using the rules forum. What other types of communication do you think that we should have in Dice Masters that we don't have today, or what do you think is working?
Well, there isn't any, so...
They're answering rules questions.
Yes. But they radio silence a lot. So, I mean, even hearing just something, and it doesn't have to be, you know, if nothing's really going on, we haven't heard you in like X amount of time, at least something, anything. You know what I mean? Just don't be radio silence.
Like a couple years ago when they published that What's Up with Dice Masters article.
Yeah, it's like, I don't even think much people even go there. I don't know. Like I feel like it has to be there, all the socials, you know what I mean? Like, and that goes under advertising and socials and stuff like that.
Yeah, so marketing the game better.
Yeah. Fall under marketing, that's the word.
Yeah. So like, again, HeroClix. This year they launched special social media specifically for HeroClix. So there's the WizKids social media in all the different platforms. There's also WizKids HeroClix. So all of the HeroClix stuff is going through the WizKids HeroClix channel. I think there's an advantage to that if you're already a HeroClix player, because it keeps everything you want to see in one place.
Yep.
If you're a new player, you're never going to find HeroClix because you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, marketing is another really big one.
Yeah, so I wouldn't suggest that exclusive social media is the thing, but I would suggest that including Dice Masters in your social media should be a thing.
Yeah.
And then like your organized play ties into marketing.
Yeah, I mean, every time you have a press release, you have something, right? Every time you're introducing a new op kit, boom, you have something. And they've done that on their website, but I think they could do a little bit more with We Got Our Way. You know what I mean?
100%.
But yeah, that's a big one.
Anything else, Ken?
I don't know. Did we miss anything?
Well, I mean, I think we've covered quite a lot of stuff, but maybe our listeners have some more things to add.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are, if you were WizKids, if you were in charge, what would good support look like? Or as a player of the game, what does the appropriate support in your mind look like? Please let us know. And we will let you know at the end of the episode on where you can let us know those things, because we want to hear from you.
Yeah. So dice bag?
Sure. So we heard from a few people in our dice bag. There was a little bit of conversation on our Discord in our A Double Double and Dice podcast channel, Convo channel. There was some suggestions for future content. So we heard from Adam R. Adam R. said that he was wondering if we were going to at least temporarily perhaps branch out and talk about some other games until Dice Masters news comes out. Adam said that he wouldn't mind hearing about our adventures in Lorcana, etc.
Justin's got to play it. And we were talking before, and I got to play some more of it too, to really... I'm such a noob to the noob on this.
I mean, nothing wrong with that, but
nope.
I haven't even opened my decks yet.
Yeah. I was telling Jocelyn earlier, I just bought singles to make a Frozen deck. So it's themed.
Cool.
With some help. There's some non-Frozen people in there, but it's just for some help. But yeah, we'll see how it goes, because I will play it at the next Lorcana night.
Yeah. And we may have some conversations about other games while we're talking about this, but I think we still want to continue to focus on Dice Masters as much as we can, right? Jackalope Spam piped in and said, sounds like the podcast is now Lorcana Star Wars Unlimited podcast, where neither host has played both. What could go wrong? Absolutely nothing could go wrong.
Well, I've played Lorcana, you play Star Wars, so we're good.
Yeah, exactly. He's saying neither of us have played both of, like, we don't both play the games.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So, and you commented it's going to be the board/card game podcast. And you said also don't forget about Magic.
Yeah, which you play.
Which I play, but also you purchased.
I did. I got one. It was on sale. It wasn't too bad.
And you're considering some of the new stuff coming out, right?
Yeah, I was looking at Assassin's Creed, which I think is coming out in July. Which is based off a board game. I don't know anything else. It's a board game. But I didn't want to wait that long.
Right.
And I'm gonna find the box because I want to read what's on it while you keep talking.
Okay.
Because it's just I always feel like I tie it right back to like Dice Masters. I'm like, this seems like up my alley. So
which Magic?
Yeah. Just what's on the box.
Well, yeah.
I'm like going through my box right now. Okay, so here it is. It's the Wilds of Elder Drain. Is that how you say it?
I have no idea.
I don't know. And it says, buff your creatures, crush your foes, aka overcrush. So I don't know. It spoke to me.
Well, there you go.
So I have not opened it yet, nor played yet. So we'll have to get that on the table at some point.
Yeah. And then we also heard from Darren, White Spider 1066, complimenting us on the wrap-up episode, and thanks for the mention and kind words. Because Darren, of course, wrote a couple of blog posts about our episodes and the What If series. So if you haven't read those, I would encourage you to hop over there and check them out. Danny commented on our YouTube and very kindly filled in for us about the Lorcana booster box. It comes with how many packs, Kim?
24 was
24, yes, 24 booster packs.
Yeah. And then there's 12 cards in a pack.
That I can't answer.
I think. I'm
Sounds
pretty
right.
Sure. Yeah.
And then Nick, who was delayed, provided some feedback about our competition episode. He sent that to me by direct message on Discord by adding me at Justitch. He said that the competition episode reminded him of a quote he had heard recently. When playing a game, the goal is to win, but it is the goal that is important, not the winning. He said the quote felt apt, as a good game should be designed so that someone can win, but the act of playing the game isn't just about winning. We can still try to win while playing casual. The person who wrote this quote, Rainer Geniza, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong and butchering it, I'm sorry, is a prolific game designer with over 800 board game titles, many awards, and a PhD in mathematics, which of course would speak to Nick's heart because he is a mathematics guy.
Mathematician?
Yeah, but I did think that was very interesting. The goal is to win, but it's the goal that's important, not the actual winning. So what that feels to me is like it's about putting all the effort in, but understanding that you might not win. But you're putting the effort in, you're having a good time. So
yeah. And sure. I always feel if you don't always have to win. But when you're not winning is how you learn.
Right. And I mean, winning doesn't always have to be the goal. Maybe it's the goal, but maybe the goal is you've built a separate win condition for yourself. Like I think about back in 2019 when Matt came to Worlds and I met him for the first time in one of the events. I think it was Popper. his goal was to get all his Batiri battle stacks into the field at the same time. He didn't care if he won any games. He didn't care if he won anything.
Mm-hmm.
He just wanted to get all of his Batiri battle stacks into the field at the same time. And I was like, that's great. You've got a personal goal. You've put a plan in the place. If you win some games, great. If you don't, no problem, because you built your personal goal. So,
yeah.
Coming events, Kim?
Dice Masters related? None. We just finished 2 team takedown and we had a winner who was Mr. Jackalope Spam.
Ooh, maybe we should have Mr. Jackalope Spam on the podcast to talk about his winnings. I know he wrote an article.
He did write an article, so it's on our DM-North website.
Some people don't like to read.
I am one. I'm not gonna lie about that. It's funny too, because it's like I'll write an article, but I will never read. It's weird. Anyways, and then we also have our board game nights. So we now move to a Monday night board gaming night, which is more, it's board gaming night. Monday night gaming. Every second of the month is Dice Throne. Every 4th of the month is Lorcana. These are all Monday nights, 9 p.m. 9 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern, and then Saturday nights is our board game nights.
Nice.
And yeah, that's pretty much what's going on.
Cool. Anything else to
add? No, I think that's it. Unless I'm missing something.
I don't think so. So, if we did miss anything, guess what, Kim?
Oh, next episode we'll have a special guest.
That's right. But I was going to say, if we did miss anything, guess what, Kim? We'll have another episode that we can remember and share it with everybody.
Yeah.
But yes, next episode we'll have a special guest. So make sure you tune in to find out who it is and which of us is on the podcast. Spoilers. In the meantime, we would love to know from your perspective, what would good support look like for Dice Masters? Do you agree with what Kim and I talked about? Do you have a different perspective? Do you have something that you have thought of that we didn't talk about? Like, for example, at the end, I just remembered that maybe we could talk about the intellectual properties. Instead of Marvel and DC, we could do other things. But, again, maybe you've got an opinion and you've taken the time to listen to us for however many minutes this podcast has been. A bunch. And, we want to hear what you think. So please let us know. And you can reach out to us in all of the usual places, which includes sending us an email to dpodcast@dm-north.com like Andy May did when he provided the suggestion for this very episode. You can also find us on Discord. You can at both of us. Kim is at SuperK. I am at Jostitch, Joce Stitch. You can join our dmNorthTV Discord channel, in which we have a group for a Double and Dice podcast convo, where you can have live conversations with other listeners of the podcast. You can find us on all the socials: Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok, Threads. I think I'm missing one, probably because I want to say Twitter, even though it's not Twitter anymore, at dmNorthTV. You can find Kim and Matt and sometimes friends playing live on Saturday nights on Twitch at twitch.tv/dmNorthTV. And you can also check us out on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/dmNorthTV. So until next time, on a Double and Dice.